Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University.
Namaskar dear students, welcome back. In last session we have learned how to use APIs to fetch data from server or put or delete data from server. We have also learned how to use local storage options like SQLite, shared preference and Hive. Today in this session we will get demonstration of each of these tools and methods we have learned in theory session. So, let us start understand through practical examples so that you can have better idea about the tools. So, let us start in Visual Studio Code. So, friends, on screen you can see my first demonstration which displays data fetch from server. So, when I click on this fetch post, I must have stable internet connection. So, it will fetch data from server and display inside this list. So, it fetch 100 records from server, and in second button which is fetch wrong URL, I have provided intentionally wrong URL so that I can know what kind of error occurs. So, if I clicking on this, it will try to open that URL, but since that URL is wrong, it is unable to fetch response from server. So, it displays whatever error code received, which is 404 in this case. So, it displays server error. Now, let us understand how to implement these functionality in our app. So, here you can see import Flutter core UI toolkit, which is material.dart. The second is a new import, which is a http.dart. Now, as we mentioned earlier, we must include this dependency in your pubspecs.yml file. So, let us go to pubspecs.yml file. Here is a dependency. So, inside dependency I want to use HTTP. So, I have to write down HTTP colon then 2 space and then version name which begins with caret sign. Here we want to use shared preference in a other demonstration. So, I have mentioned HTTP, shared preference, SQLite, path, Hive and Hive underscore Flutter also. But whatever dependency you require, you must include that in this dependency section of pubspecs.yml file. Now, suppose you forgot to write down dependency here, Visual Studio Code will automatically suggest you to add this dependency. So, do not bother, but you must know as a developer that we must have this dependency included in your pubspecs.yml file, otherwise this code will not going to work. Again go back to our code. So, first is a material.dart package is included in our file. Second is a http.dart package. Then we require this convert package for decoding JSON response. So, these three packages must be imported. Now, main is our entry point. So, inside main I write down run app which displays my app widget. So, what is my app widget? It is root widget of the app and it extends stateless widget that you can see on the screen. My app constructor is written with optional key and we must override build method to display our interface. So, inside interface we want to display two buttons, one to retrieve data and one to showcase wrong URL. Build, I return material app and set debug show check mode banner to false. I provided title API demo and my theme is blue. So, here I write down theme data, inside that I provide primary swatch which is color.blue. So, it use blue theme and inside home I display my API screen which you can see here. This entire portion is my API screen. Let us understand my API screen. So, my API screen is a stateful widget because it changes its state. Inside that I define my constructor. Now whenever we use stateful widget, we must have create state method override. So here I override create state method. Here I define class underscore my API screen state, which extends state of type my API screen. Now to store data fetch from server, we must have one dynamic list. So here I define list which is dynamic. Its name is underscore data and initially it is empty. So it is least to hold fetch data. Initially is loading is false, which indicates whether data is loading or loaded. Then we have error message. It holds error message if request fails. Now inside these I have defined function fetch data to fetch data from the given API URL. Now it is asynchronous method of type future because whenever that data fetch is complete, we must have to wait until that data is available. So inside set state method, I set initially is loading to true. So to show loading spinner, initially error message is null and data is empty. Then we write down try catch for error handling. So inside response, I call http.get method. Now these get method must accept URL provided by user. So from where to use this URL? So if you see the fetch data, it takes one argument of type URL. So these URL represent page that you want to open to get data. Inside get, we must provide that URL. So here I use URI.parse method to convert that string into actual URL. Once you call this get method, it returns that data inside this response. So this response variable holds the result of our query or get method. Now if data is successfully retrieved from URL, so again we call set state method to store data received from server inside data. So here I use JSON decode method to store retrieved data into data, and now since data is already loaded, is loading is set to false so that spinner is stopped. Now if status code is not equal to 200, we again set state with error message, server error and whatever error we have received, and again it is stopped. So is loading is set to false and we will display any exception that occurred. So again we call set state method which displays error message failed to load data with whatever exception or error occurred, and again is loading is set to false. So whenever this state method is called, it will automatically call that build method. In build method I return scaffold and set fbar text to combine API example. Here you can see combine API example. Inside body in column I want to display children. The first is row containing these two buttons, fetch post and fetch wrong URL. So here I provided padding, and inside row which is child of column, I set main axis alignment to space around for equal space distribution, and inside that I want to display two buttons which is elevated button, and when I click on fetch post I want to call that fetch data method which sets is loading, error message and data. So inside fetch data I provided these URL. Now this is a URL that stores data. Pasting these inside my browser, you can see these data is retrieved. So here this data is in JSON format. So there are 100 different objects which is returned when this URL is pasted inside browser. Similarly, when you call fetch data with these URL, it again retrieves these data and store inside these data. So here you can see if status code is equal to 200, it stores data received inside these data, and we use JSON decode method because that data is in JSON format. So whatever response is received is stored inside this data if that request is success. So this is how it works. When this button is pressed, fetch post, it will fetch data using fetch data function from this URL, and its text is fetch post. The second button is fetch wrong URL button. So here you can see its child text is fetch wrong URL and its background color is blue and foreground or text color is white. And it again use fetch data method, but this time I provided wrong URL. Again you can paste this inside your browser. It will return empty. What does it mean? It does not contain any data. Either user press this fetch posts button or fetch wrong URL button. Now when this fetch post is pressed, what will happen? Request is successful, data is stored inside data and error message is null. So after these I write down expanded area to display loading, error or data. So inside expanded I define child based on is loading status. So here I write down is loading, then we must display in center circular progress indicators, and when is loading is false and there is no error message, we will display error message not equals null. We display in center of screen server error and that error code. So its color is red and font size is 16. So whatever error message we have received is displayed in center of screen with red color and 16 font size. If this button is pressed, then error message is null, data is available inside data. So here I want to show fetch data in a list view. So I use list view builder. My count is whatever length of that data, which is 100. Each item is created. So this is my title, this is my subtitle, this is leading. Here I retrieve that data, title in hash title and name inside hash name, and inside item I retrieve each data that we have seen in browser or here. This entire data is a single object, this is second object and so on. So these data index will return one object at a time starting with 0. So inside item I will retrieve all data one by one, from which I separate title and name and then display in card. So these will set my insets vertical 6, horizontal 10 and elevation is 3, and inside card I want to display list tile for each item. The first is a leading space. So these leading space displays circle avatar, and what does it displays? Its ID. So here I write down tag, which is item ID. So goes from 1 to 100, and after that I want to display title. And what is its text? Whatever item title is there, I want to display that, and then I want to display second item, which is name. So I display item name and its text style is bold. Now inside subtitle I want to display item body. So inside item body I will display hash name or no date. This is for post. Our URL is for post. Here if I write down users, I will fetch another data. So here I write down if title is fetch, we must display title. If name is fetch, we must display name, and if there are no title, I should display no title. And similarly, if item has body, the URL must be post. If item has a email, I must display email, and if there is no data, I must display no data. So this is how we display list of item or error message occurred in, say, let us sum up. So initially it displays blank, and when I click on this fetch post, this fetch data method is called with specific URL, and it displays is loading to true. So initially it displays this circular pinner, and once it is downloaded, it again set is loading to false, and whatever error message is occurred is stored inside error message, and if data is occurred, it is stored inside data that we parse using this JSON decode. So that entire list is stored inside this data object, and from where we display it inside this list using list builder. and list tile. So this is how it works. So friends, I hope you understand how to use get method to retrieve data from server. In next demonstration, first we run this inside my actual phone. So friends, this is my nested JSON example where data store in nested format. So let us first see how data is stored. So this is URL for data. So I am copying this inside browser. So here you can see the response. This is a one object, right? So these represent single object. Now inside these, in address we have another object, and address contains different field like street, shoot, city, zip code, etc., geographical location and so on. So ID is a single value. So this is called nested JSON object. This is top level object, and inside that address is again nested. Similarly, company is another object which is a part of main object. So these company and address are two sub objects, right? So we want to fetch data like these inside our app. So let us try to understand these code. So we have already added dependencies, so you need not to do anything right now. We import three packages as mentioned earlier. This is my main method. Inside that I call run app and provided my app as a root widget of the application. Now my app is a stateless widgets. Inside that I write down my constructor with optional key, and then I override my build method to display that data inside our application. So inside build I return material app with title nested JSON demo, and inside home I specify nested JSON screen. So this is another widget which actually displays this data, right? So in nested JSON screen I write down class nested JSON screen and it extends stateful widget. This is constructor, and whenever we create stateful widget we must override create state method. So here I define create state method which returns nested JSON create state. So below that I define that class underscore nested JSON screen state which extends state of type nested JSON screen. Now again this list is dynamic, so I declare list to hold users fetch data from API, and then initially is loading is true because data is loading before displaying. So it is set to true. Then like previous example, here again I define one function which is fetch users, which is asynchronous function of type future to fetch users from API, and inside response I store result of http.get, and this is a URL from where you want to fetch users detail which is in nested JSON format, and if status code equals to 200, what does it mean? Data is successfully fetched. So again we use JSON decode method to retrieve JSON data in user, and is loading is set to false since data is already loaded. Here I define one lifecycle method init state which is called when widget is first inserted in the tree. So here I call its base class method, and then I call this fetch users method. So immediately after loading our app it directly fetch that users detail from server. Here we need not to click on button to retrieve data, but it will immediately load it when app is start. Now inside build method I return scaffold, and app bar text is set to nested JSON example that you can see here. Inside body, if is loading is set to true, I want to display in center of screen circular progress indicator, otherwise I want to display list view. So once data is fetched I want to display list view, so I have used list view dot builder method, and whatever item count is received is specified by underscore users dot length. Here you can see inside these users we get all the data. So its length indicates number of items, right? In item count I specify underscore users dot length. Inside item builder I want to display all the items one by one. Now I want to first extract address which is sub object, and another is a company which is also a sub object of user. So inside address now I have all the details of that address, and inside company I have all the details of company. Inside these list I want to display each list item as a card, so I use card and its insets is set to 8 pixel from all the side, and inside list tile I display title, which is name of user, that you can see here in bold, and inside subtitle I want to display three things: email, treat and company. Now email is a direct part of user, so here I write down email colon $user, and then I can directly refer to email. But treat is a part of address, so here I have to use treat colon and then dollar into curly bracket address, and then I can refer it treat data. And in next line I want to display company, which is part of sub object company, and field name is name. So this is how each item is displayed in form of list, and here we have learned how to retrieve these nested JSON data efficiently. So friends, this is how our nested JSON data is retrieved. So friends, I hope you understand how to fetch data which is in nested JSON format. Now let us move to third demonstration. So friends, here I want to not only retrieve data, but I want to also use put and delete method. So initially app displays few items fetch from server. So here we have fetch only 5 items, and we also provided these two icons. So when I click on these, it will says post updated success, and when I click on these, it will remove that post from the list, and here I can add new post like, and then I can submit post. So here you can see that post is added 101, right? So this is how we can not only retrieve data, but we can also post and delete data. So let us understand. So we have to import these three packages as usual. Then I write down main method which calls run app, and I provide my app as a root widget of the application. Now my app is a stateless widget. Then I write down its constructor, and I override build method. Inside that I write down return material app, and debug show check mode banner is set to false, title is set to crude API demo, and my theme is blue. Inside home I want to display these. So this is my crude app screen, which is a widget which is displayed as a home of my app widget. So inside home I set crude app screen. Now this class crude app screen is a stateful widget. So here I define its constructor and override create state method as usual, and inside crude app screen state I extend state of type crude app screen, and here initially list is empty to hold post, and is loading is set to true because initially we want to load data. Now we define these two text editing controller to retrieve this title and body text. So I define two controllers to capture user input for new post. First we want to fetch post using get method. So here I define fetch post method like previous one. In response I will retrieve data, but here you can see in post I provide one query string parameter underscore limit. So using these additional information you can limit the number of posts you want to retrieve. Now suppose I put these inside browser, only 5 posts will be retrieved. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So this is how we retrieve 5 items from these posts. Now that is stored inside post underscore post using JSON decode, so that it is converted into list when that data is fetched, because here I write down if response.status code equals 200. What does it mean? It means request is successful. So I retrieve data inside post and set is loading to false, otherwise I set is loading to false, and inside snack bar I want to display failed to load post if there are invalid URLs post, and we can also display in snack bar any other error that occurred. So this is how it retrieves first 5 records initially. Right. The second is function to create or put post using post method. To create post we can use post method. So here function name is create post. It is asynchronous function of type future, and in response I write down http.post method. So first argument is URL where we want to post data, and inside header I must specify the type of data I am posting. So here it is a JSON data, and like decode, we have encode method which converts our data into JSON format. So I want to provide three value: title, body and user ID. So inside title I provided title controller dot text, which is a text written inside title, and in body I want to provide body controller dot text, which is a text editing controller which refers to these value, and user ID is fixed, which is 1. So these method will post data to server. Now if response dot status code equals 201, what does it mean? We have inserted new post at the top of list. So here inside new post I retrieve response body and set state. Inside set state I write down underscore posts dot insert. Now 0 means at the top, and what we want to put is new post, which is just created, and there are snack bar in which we display post created successfully. Let us create one more post. Suppose I submit this post, it will display post created successfully and put that on top of list. So here you can see using snack bar we display that message, and then we clear these title and body. So here I write down title controller dot clear and body controller dot clear, so that value entered or typed by user has gone. And inside else I want to display error message that I failed to create post. Now inside put method we can update post. So here I define one method called update post, which takes two argument, id and index, where we want to update text or data. Here I call http.put method. The first argument is URL where we want to put update. So here inside $id I must provide id to be updated, and inside header I specify that content type is JSON and it has a two data: updated title and updated body. So here you can see updated title and updated body is displayed in case of put method is called. Now if response status code equals 200, what does it mean? We can set title to updated title, that you can write down here, and this is a static text, but we can also write down like this: title controller dot text and body controller dot text. So here you can provide dynamic value also. And response status code equals to 200, what does it mean? We have again set state to update post locally, and we add in list updated title and updated body, and inside snack bar we display post updated successfully, and in case of error we display we fail to update post. Now let us understand fourth method, which is delete, which deletes post. So here I define one method delete post, which takes two arguments. First is id and second is index that we want to delete. So inside response I call http delete result. So the first argument is URL with id as a query string to delete that id. And if response dot status code equals to 200, what does it mean? It is removed. So I removed that post from list, so it is removed from local list, and inside snack bar I display post deleted successfully, and in case of error or else part we write down failed to delete post, and if any other error occurs you can accord that inside try. So here as the app starts we want to immediately display that post. So here I call fetch posts method in screen load. Now this is my user interface. Inside build method I written scaffold and set app bar title text to crude example that you can see here, and inside body I have child column with two children, text field with controller title controller, decoration with title text, and second text field is a body with controller as a body controller and decoration as a decoration. Using decoration I can specify input decoration label text as a body. This is a use for providing space between two controls. So after that I display elevated button, submit post, and whenever it is pressed I call create post, which in turn add that value to our post. Then we have divider that you can see here. This is a divide, and after that I want to display list of posts with update and delete buttons. So inside expanded I write down if child is loading is set to true, I display in center of screen circular progress indicator, and if post is empty, I display no post available, and if post is available, I want to display that inside list using list_view.builder. So item count is whatever post received, so it is refers to _post.length, and using item builder I can create these items. So for each index I want to return card with margin sets to 6 pixel in a vertical manner. Then we have list tile. Inside leading I want to display one circular avatar, circle avatar with our ID, and inside title, this is title, so this is a title, bold is a title. So inside title I want to display title of post, and inside subtitle, which is below title, I want to display body of the post, and in trailing row, this is a trailing part, right? So in trailing I want to display row with 2 icons. So inside children I specify icon, the first icon is icon, edit, color is orange, and on press I call updated post method with specific ID and index, and inside delete icon button I use red icon, and whenever it is pressed I want to call this delete post method with specific ID and index. So this is how entire code works. We can submit post, we can put post, we can delete post. The first is a get method which displays data into list. Second is a post method which posts new data to list. Third is a update post using put method which update our data, and last is a delete post which use delete method to delete data from list. So this is how it works. So friends, in these 3 demonstrations we have learned how to integrate API into your app to retrieve data from server, and we have used different method of HTTP object like get, post, put and delete. So I hope you enjoy this session. Thank you and happy learning.